are here this afternoon at the 2016 Focus on Inclusion Conference. Alisa Simeral, welcome.
Thank you.
We are pleased to have you here.
It's great to be here.
And one of the topics that you're going to be presenting on while you're with us is around reflective practice. Yes. And that's something that many of us have heard about, but what that really means, tell us a little bit more. Part of what you're going to share, I understand, is around, there's some big steps that educators maybe need to take to move from just, particularly around an IEP, being compliant with the IEP and moving more towards, we're going to implement this IEP with a goal of student growth. Mm-hmm. How do you make that transition?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I think of the word compliance, I think of this idea, if we, in the business world, it's, are we compliant with these regulations, right? Rules, regulations, those seem synonymous with the word compliance. And so when I'm going through, and if I'm a teacher who is compliant on issues, I'm really looking at a list of items and I'm checking them off. Am I doing this? Check, check, check. And I'm doing what you are asking me to do, or what the rules and the regulations are. There isn't necessarily thinking attached to that piece. When I think of the word compliance, I think about the actions that I'm doing, but I'm doing it for somebody else, not necessarily because I'm thinking about what I am doing so much. Mm-hmm. So when we talk and work with teachers in a classroom and we're trying to shift them from moving from compliance, and what I say is moving from compliance to commitment, right? We want to move from compliance to commitment. The difference is in how they think. So by promoting thinking, right, and really working to refine the thought process, the reflective practice, as you just mentioned, when we talk about refining that reflective thought process and those habits, that really shifts my mindset as a classroom teacher toward checking off a list, doing what you want me to do, to I'm doing it because I want the students to learn. And I'm aware of the student needs, and I'm aware of what they need, and I'm aware of best practice strategies, and I'm connecting the two. And I'm better able to think about why I do what I do. I'm analyzing, how do I know it's working? And I'm using that information to drive the actions in my classroom. So really it comes down to refining the way we think. I oftentimes ask folks to think about the best classroom teacher. The classroom that they've walked into, that the instruction is just dialed in for all students. Mm-hmm. Students with disabilities, general ed students, the instruction is dialed in. And I ask them to think about what is the difference between that excellent classroom, that excellent teacher, and the teacher next door, who maybe there isn't that level of learning that's taking place. What's the difference between the two? And at the end of the day, it really is how that teacher thinks. How we think drives what we do in the classroom. And so the work that Pete Hall, my co-author, and I have done really centers around what is reflection. What is that thought process? And in that, we have created something called the reflective cycle. And that reflective cycle starts with building an awareness. Right? So I need to be aware of what's happening in the classroom, and aware of my students, aware of content, aware of pedagogical strategies. I have this awareness that I develop and I build. And then from that awareness, I move into being intentional. So I'm thinking about why. Why am I choosing to do what I do each day in the classroom? As I sit down to lesson plan, that why is in the back of my mind. Why am I choosing to do this? I'm thinking of my students, and that why is driving my planning. From there, I move into what we call the accurate assessment category. So after I have these plans and I've developed them, now I'm asking myself, how? How do I know this is working? Is it working? Is it not? How do I know? And then from there, I move to be responsive. If it's not working, what do I do? How quickly do I shift my actions? So from that drives me to build more awareness. And that cycle continues. And ultimately, when I work with teachers, all professionals really, we're reflecting with different frequency, different accuracy, and to different levels of depth. And it's that thinking that we really want to hone in on, because when I develop that habit of thought, building awareness, being intentional, asking myself, how do I know it's working, and responding to that information, as I engage in that metacognitive process, that's going to drive what I do in the classroom and ultimately shift me from being compliant toward being committed to the students in my room and that student learning at the heart of it all.
Great. The word purposeful keeps coming to mind.
Absolutely.
Great.
I think of, when I train my physical body. I run a lot, and I'm in great shape. If I don't continue that level of training, my body will change, and I won't be in that same physical condition. It's the same for our mental capacity as well. When we think about that metacognitive habits that we want to really develop, I have to be intentional and purposeful in training myself and how I think. And that's an action that I have to engage in to maintain that level of reflective capability as well.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about. Now, thanks for being here and for bringing this to the conference.
Sure.
And it's been a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you.